AJ, I cannot see you, so you're gonna have to tell me that you're ready to go.
We're ready to go, Mayor.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna call the Springfield City Council work session to order with roll call.
Mayor Van Gordon,
Here,
Councilor Pitts,
Here.
Councilor Moe, Councilor Rodley,
Here.
Councilor Stair,
Here.
Councilor Woodrow, Councilor Pictionary.
and Councilor Woodrow and Pictionary are excused for the evening, and I am coming to you from an undisclosed location because I've got bronchitis and I don't want to share. We've got 2 items today in their committee interviews. So looks like the first one's library advisory applicant interviews. And is Emily here?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, councilors. I am here, and I am here as representative for the Library Advisory Board. We have 3 applicants this evening. We have 3 open positions, or will have as of December 31st. So there's a 2-year term, a 3-year term, and a 4-year term. The 2- and 3-year terms are completions of people that stepped down early, and then the other is a full 4-year term. So we have 3 applicants here ready to be interviewed when you're ready, unless you have any questions for me.
Does anybody have any questions for Emily?
I have one question. Do any of the applicants have a preference for any of the terms that are available?
We haven't spoken about that.
Okay.
They've all been to a library advisory board meeting and are interested in participating, but we didn't talk about the
Very good.
length.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think we're ready.
Okay. So I believe Susan Bogenshield is first.
Hello.
Hello, Susan. Nice to meet you. I'm going to go ahead and ask all the questions. In a hybrid environment, it's really hard to go around to introduce all of ourselves.
I understand.
But we're all pleased to meet you.
Thank you.
So are you ready to answer questions?
Sure. Go for it.
Why are you interested in serving on the library board?
I'd like to participate in the community, and I'm an avid reader. I've been a volunteer in different capacities at libraries and places where I've lived. And I think it'd be nice to be involved.
Do you have any specific professional or personal experience as it relates to your desire to be on the library board?
My professional experiences are varied. I mean, I've been a nonprofit fundraiser for National Public Radio Network, all the way down to being a preschool teacher for 2-year-olds or a special ed teacher. The majority of my professional career was based in nonprofit fundraising, a couple of universities and public broadcasting. And I sort of look at this variety of experiences that I've had as, you know, I may not have a library degree, but I've had lots of constituents in my careers, and I think that, you know, I might have a broad perspective of ways to look at things, issues that might come up.
Could you give an example of your experience working with a committee?
At NPR, I had a committee for a nationally based fundraising appeal when there was a significant shortfall at the network level. So I worked with station managers. I worked with a good cross-section of folks across the community, having to help folks basically at the local level and the national level, and putting together a fundraising effort on air that took collaboration with professional talent and station broadcasters and the management at the network level.
How do you think the work of the library board will improve our community?
I have a lot to learn about that. I think that the library suits a lot of needs. It's basically a home for a lot of people during the day, and it's an important thing. I know that, you know, parents bring children, and, you know, people like me who have grown children and have interest in book clubs and reading and whatnot. But I do have a lot to learn about what the library, you know, what the inside machinations are in the library.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Emily, I think we're ready for person number 2.
That's Myra Breen. He's right here.
Do I just go up? Do I wait for Emily? Is there an MC? Hi?
Always wait for Emily.
Yes, that's good advice.
Well, it's very nice to meet you. Are you ready for your first question?
Yes.
Why are you interested in serving on the library board?
This would be my first time serving on any kind of board. I'm interested specifically because as a Springfield resident, I use the library really heavily. I have 2 kids, 2nd and 4th graders, and they both love the library. We love the things that it offers beyond books. I mean, we definitely have probably checked out almost every book in the children's section, but on top of that, we love the events, the the displays that are up that we feel are really in tune with the community. And I guess I'd like to be a part of that.
Perfect. Thank you. Could you describe your professional and personal experience as it relates to your desire to become a library member?
Sure. So as I said, I've not served on a board or anything like that before, but I have worked with children my entire professional life. My bachelor's is in child development, psychology minor. I've worked everywhere from preschool, K-8. I've run daycares. I've been a private nanny. I've always been heavily involved in education, and libraries have always been a part of that everywhere that I've lived. Currently, I'm an educational facilitator with Teach Northwest, which is out of the Marcola district. But yet again, a very high number of kids in my caseload are Springfield residents, and I'm forever diverting them to the library for one thing or another. And yes, I guess literacy, while not library specific, literacy has played a big part in everything that I've done. And now I'm working on my master's in curriculum development. And even within that, it's all about literacy in libraries and what they have to offer.
Can you give us an example of your experience working with a committee?
My only experiences working with committees would be in a professional capacity at various schools. So preschools, I'm currently on the, for Teach Northwest, currently on the student success team and the curriculum committee. It's always been positive. With Teach, it's been mostly virtual, but it's been very nice to be able to collaborate and to learn from people who've been doing it longer than I have, and then to kind of test my knowledge as new people come in and be able to answer their questions. And it's always been a very positive experience.
How do you think the work of the library board will improve our community?
Well, as I mentioned before, I love the various things, community outreach and events that are put on, I feel like more people are drawn to the library after seeing those kinds of things. And they are able to come and experience things, oftentimes bringing their children, and they are able to feel a connection with other people. I've met friends at the library at events that, I mean, years later, we're still doing stuff together and hanging out. And I think it's a lovely way for people to come together. And I feel like it serves everybody. I mean, I realize my work's primarily been with children, but I mean, I feel like there's something there for everyone, and that everybody is able to find that something and the other people who are looking for that something when the library is active.
All right, that was the last question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, our last applicant is Rebecca Weed.
Hello,
Hello, Rebecca. It's very nice to meet you.
nice to meet you guys too.
Are you ready for your first question?
I hope so.
Why are you interested in serving on the library board?
I'm interested in serving in some capacity in the city of Springfield. I've lived here in the Eugene Springfield area for about 14 years, and in Springfield specifically for about 8 years or so. My kids are now grown and in school, well, grown. They are older and in school most days, and I really wanted to get more involved in my community and be able to speak into things and be able to help out how I can.
Could you describe your professional and personal experience as it relates to your desire to become a library member?
My professional, so I've worked in a lot of higher education settings. I've worked in a private community, private university. I, for a short time, did data entry at the University of Oregon. So I've done a lot of educational things more on the administrative side than necessarily library side. But in such, I feel like I've got a lot of experience in knowing how to work within processes and yet still be able to get things done. To serve student bodies or bodies of people. In the last few years, as a stay-at-home mom, I worked leading and being a part of a mom of preschoolers group at my church. And it was a great opportunity to volunteer my time, interact with other moms in the community of the same opinions of mine or not, or same beliefs of mine or not, and to be able to serve them and do fundraising and just a lot of varied opportunities to be able to grow and to be able to gain new skills. So I think that those kind of experiences will help me to be able to work well with the committees and to be able to try to do the best I can in serving the city of Springfield.
How do you think the work of the library board will improve our community?
I think it was so fun to attend a meeting because to be able to see what that was discussed and what was in plan and in place to be able to address things that people's needs. They mentioned that they had recently taken away the fines. And I know as a parent in this community, that was a big surprise to me, but also a really big blessing in terms of budgets for my own household. And so to see those kind of things where they are literally impacting the people, and there was a discussion about a dyslexia thing that they're doing. Someone on the board was really excited about that. Hope I'm not speaking out of turn. Oh, sorry guys, I'm new. Anyways, it was just exciting to see the ways that they interact and the things they do. And that was really a lot of fun. And I can't remember what the question was. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
No, you did perfect.
Okay, good.
Well, thank you so much. I think you're coming back here in a couple of minutes. So,
I am.
all right, we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Do you have any questions for me? Know that Rebecca's interviewing for both of the committees, so I don't know if you wanted to wait, Mayor, or how you want to handle that.
Can we is there any preset order? Can we just have her back and get her done and out of the way for the Historic Commission? Because there's only two more questions. She's answered majority of them.
Fine with me. Rebecca?
So Mayor, did you want to move to the next item?
Yes, please.
Mayor, before we bring Tom up, I just wanted to quickly introduce him to the council. Tom is our new senior planner. He came to us from the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, which is sort of like LCOG. And he's working with Mark Rust and all of the great folks over in community development. And so we're very happy to have him. This is his first time in front of the council.
All right, if we are ready to start. Good evening, Mayor and councilors. I'm Tom Sievers, Senior Planner and Staff Liaison for the Historic Commission. We're asking that you interview 3 candidates for the Historic Commission today. There are 2 new vacancies on the now 9-person Historic Commission and 1 pending vacancy from an existing member. That being said, Jenna Fribley's term expires on November 19th. Which I was unaware of leading up to the appointment or to my appointment as staff liaison. So she was not able to apply in this round, but she has indicated that she is interested in staying on the commission. So just to keep that in mind. That's all I have for now, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions unless we're ready to start.
I did have one question. Jennifer is interested in the pending vacancy.
Jenna has a
Jenna.
standing vacancy position right now. It would become vacant on November 19th.
So her position would not be included in these 3.
Technically not.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And could you give us the count again? It's 3 people for 3. How many vacancies? You said I heard 9.
Two vacancies right now. It was a 7-person commission and it has now changed to a 9-person commission. So with all members currently serving their terms right now, there would be 2 open seats to be filled.
And then the Jenna issue. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I think we are ready.
Okay. The first applicant then will be Rebecca Weed, so we can get that moving.
Oh, thank you.
Hello again.
Hello again. So it's basically the same set of questions, but if you could just add, I'm going to give you the same set. And if you could add any other relevant experience you have specific to the Historic Commission, then we'll get you wrapped up here.
Thank you.
Why are you interested in serving on the Historic Commission?
So truly my heart lies to really serve as many places that I could potentially in Springfield. That sounds like a lot. Mainly I want to serve in somewhere in our city government if I can. And I thought of the 2 places that I enjoy. I enjoy the library and I also love architecture and historic things. And so when I saw openings available for both, I would put in my application for both. As far as Historic Commission, I'm just an avid architecture history buff. I don't feel like I am an expert by any means, but I really love it and enjoy it. And it sounded like a great opportunity to learn more about the city. I didn't grow up here, but I love going to the Washburn district or seeing the murals and the things that are around town that really just speak to the culture and the people here.
How do you think the work of the Historic Commission improves the community?
I think it is a great idea to remember and learn from and grow from history. And I think preserving some things so that they can be talked about as a community and having is fantastic. I think that leads to great conversations amongst people. I think having some things be saved, like certain buildings that have history that are important, I think that's fantastic. I think sometimes even having some kind of boundaries around things so that they can be saved, or so that the way of life that is kind of desired to be here, that we can grow towards that and still obviously having space for new things and new ideas, but that boundaries don't have to be a bad thing necessarily.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. The next applicant will be Adam Howard.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Adam Howard.
Very nice to meet you, Adam. Are you ready for the first question?
Yes, please.
Why are you interested in serving on the historic committee?
So for the past 4 years, I have served as a member of the Springfield History Museum Committee. Most of that time as chair. And there were some opportunities that I identified during my time there that I felt I would be better able to pursue them as a member of the Historic Commission than I necessarily was as a member of the Historic or History Museum Committee. One of those is the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They have a number of advocacy opportunities that I think that this city can take advantage of, particularly distinctive destinations, which identifies important architectural buildings and homes and provides visitors to their website with a resource with which to explore those, learn more about them, and showcase what great things they have to offer. Another is called Main Street America, and Main Street America showcases historic main streets. In this case, the businesses that are on those historic main streets. And they have a number of opportunities for local towns and cities to engage in activities. They provide advocacy for those who are interested in improving their main streets and their economic activities on those main streets. And it's just a great way to engage in a way that might not have engaged, but are certainly looking to. So I would say that the work that I've done on the History Museum Committee, I think I can complete that as a member of the Historic Commission.
Could you describe any professional or personal experience that you have that relates to being on the Historic Commission?
Sure. So beyond describing what I just.
Yeah. So if you I don't think you talked about what you did professionally, any other details you might add.
Sure. So by profession, I am an accounting coordinator with Royal Caribbean International. I still have headquarters out on International Way. So I still work technically in Springfield, even though I do work from home. That's a great opportunity because it taught me about numbers, and I really wasn't a math student growing up, but it's taught me how to learn by doing and to learn on the fly. And I think that I've taken those skills and I've applied them to other things in terms of my personal interests, in terms of my engagements in the community. In addition to my time on the museum committee, I'm also a member of the Jordan Schnitzer Museum of Art Emeritus Leadership Council. That gives me an opportunity to work with different people in a different capacity, but all together with the same goal. Nothing gives me a greater sense of accomplishment than working with groups of people towards accomplishing a like-minded objective. And I take that to my role professionally. I take it to my role in the community, and I try to let that guide me as much as possible.
Can you give us an example of your experience working with committees?
Sure. So I'll use something that I haven't mentioned already. In addition to my work here at the Museum Committee, as well as the Jordan Schnitzer Emeritus Committee, I was also a board member at the Shelton McMurphy Johnson House. It's where I really cultivated my passions for historical architecture and particularly house museums, because I feel like house museums have the greatest storytelling potential. And that was really something that I wanted to highlight. And that's really something that I would like to highlight as a member of the Historic Commission as well. What are the stories and how do we tell them? But it was also a very different experience. it actually was not the most positive experience, and it taught me a lot. I think that I had certain goals that were not necessarily in line with the goals of the other committee members. And that taught me the importance of being on the same page and recognizing that we're in a group and that it's the group that matters. It's the group that matters. It's how the group works with the city, with the staff liaisons, and with their volunteers. I think that has also guided me. And it's also something that I recognize as very important and would certainly want to emphasize. So I do have experience working with a number of similar yet disparate organizations, some good, most good, some bad, but those bad ones have been learning opportunities. And I'm certainly grateful for those learning opportunities.
How do you think the work of the Historic Commission improves our community?
Sure. So clearly Main Street and Washburn are the most visible parts of this city. They're the first thing that people notice when they drive in. They're the one thing that people want to see when they're here. And I wanted to make sure that people have an opportunity to do that, but not only to see them and experience them, but to learn about them. You know, I mentioned storytelling. Storytelling is important in a museum, but it's also important in a community. And if I can help tell the stories of the residents of Springfield, helps tell the story of their properties and their homes and their lives, especially if we can include what it was like in the past versus what it is like now, I think that that's going to encourage people to come here. It's certainly going to encourage them to have a better experience when they are here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And lastly, we have Celine Swinson Harris.
Good evening, Mayor Van Gordon and Council. For the record, Celine Swenson Harris, resident of Ward 3.
All right, perfect. Are you ready for your first question?
Absolutely.
Why are you interested in serving on the Historic Commission?
I'm interested because I love Springfield. I am excited to live here, and I'm interested in the opportunity to serve our community, as well as the opportunity to learn more about our history and to share that with my fellow Springfield neighbors. I also recognize that the commission plays a key role for folks who live in the Washburn Historic District when they are considering making changes or preserving their homes. And I think there's a big opportunity there for us to be proactive about opportunities to share information with those folks to make that process as easy as possible.
Could you describe your professional or personal experience as it relates to the Historic Commission?
Not a lot of personal experience with historic preservation or architecture, but quite a bit of experience serving on boards, both in the sort of nonprofit and advocacy space, as well as I've served on the LCC budget committee for several years and been chair there twice. I also have in my professional experience a good deal of experience receiving community feedback and responding to that, which I think is important in a community board.
So you talked about community experience. The next question really is can you give us an example of your experience working with the committee? And if you have anything else to add about it, otherwise we can kind of move on.
Yeah, sorry to answer the question before it was asked. I can elaborate a little bit about the time I've served on the LCC budget committee. It's been a really valuable opportunity both to work with fellow citizens who care about local government, as well as to receive feedback from the community via public testimony. And I really appreciated that opportunity to learn more and be further invested in a facet of our local government.
How do you think the work of the Historic Commission benefits the community?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand our history. I think that there's a lot of opportunities there for us to learn about Springfield's past, I've also talked a bit about that role interfacing with homeowners, which I think is an incredibly important piece of what the Historic Commission does. And is something that I would be excited to work on.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So we want to talk about both library and historic committee. We can do them separately. We can do them at the same time. Who wants to jump in first? All right, Leonard.
Well, if we're going to discuss them both at the same time, I think it might be helpful, actually. Would that be, would that be acceptable to everyone? All right. I'd like to suggest that Adam and Celine are both highly qualified for the Historic Commission. And Rebecca and Myra and Susan all seem eminently qualified for the Library Committee. And I guess the question that I would have is just allocating the 2-year and the 3-year and the 4-year terms for the Library Committee.
All right, we'll come back to the terms for a second. Let's go around and make sure we have some sort of consensus on that as a lineup. Corey.
Thank you. I actually agree with Counselor Stair. I saw that Rebecca had applied for both of them, and my inclination is that she would be a better fit on the library board. And since it looks like there are 2 current spots, if I'm understanding correctly, for the Historic Commission, and there will be another one come open, and then there'll be another recruitment process, I agree with Counselor Stair that I would propose moving Adam and Celine onto that and the other 3 onto the other.
All right, I'm looking for head nods or anything else people want to add, because that's Damien.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But I would say one of the issues that I see, with the Historic Commission is that, a lot of folks talked about the architecture and the history. And when you tie, when you focus on the buildings too much, you're pretty much only going to focus on the history of middle-class white people, which is one of the issues that, we brought up with the Historic Commission before. Like, how do you define history? It goes past old buildings. And if you truly want to know the history, sometimes you got to look at the bad and the good. And I just hope that, I think there'll be good fits, but I just hope that they think about that as they move forward. Because I heard a lot about the buildings, but I didn't hear about hidden history. I didn't hear about unknown history. And I didn't hear about the history of marginalized people. So I agree with what Councilor Stair and Councilor Raleigh said, but I just wanted to add that caveat that we need to think a little bit outside the box for the Historic Commission.
Steve, did you have anything else to add?
I talk all the time, but Councilor Stair made recommendations that I agree with. Councilor Rodley.
I think we've got a plan, if you will, and I think for folks that are probably joining the Historic Commission, if they're still in the room, the commentary that Councilor Pitts provided is a common theme that I think you hear from Councilor Pitts and Councilor Rodley talking about this committee. Just something I think it's just something to keep in mind. Can we go back to the question about Jenna Fribley? Is she going to have, if you look at the schedule, is she going to have a sort of a lapse of service, if you will? Like, is there any need from the historic? Could we extend her? Like, I know people are going to want to let people apply. I get that. But is there some benefit? Like, are she going to miss a bunch of meetings? Could we extend her service by a couple of months on our own?
Yes, absolutely. It is up on the 19th here in a few days. We have one more meeting coming up for this year in December, and then, on to the new year. So whether or not she needed to be extended or join just as a a public member, then that would also be possible. But certainly if it can be extended, then I think that's what we would be looking for. She's a great asset to the Historic Commission, as I am learning.
And you meet by quarter, correct?
I believe it's once a month. And
Okay.
that's a third Tuesday of the month.
Okay. And when would you be going out for the application again? Would it be in the group in probably February?
I'm getting nods, yes.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could, this is Mary Bridget, if I could just add to, I think the next application be in February, but if Ms. Fribley is like a reappointment for her second time, you can make the decision to not interview her and then just reappoint. So that could be some flexibility with somebody who's serving their second term, if that's where she is. So something to consider.
Okay, great. You read my mind. I was going to ask you next. All right, for the rest of the council, well, Mary Bridget, do we have the ability to just extend it by a couple of months, or is it sort of like we can move her forward now based on what our operating procedures are? Do we have the ability to move her forward by 90 days so that we can, if we wanted to?
Yeah, you could do two things. You could extend the term for a certain amount of time, so then you can do the recruitment or the appointment however you'd like, especially because you have the break coming up. Or you could, if the council wanted to, if she's willing, just reappoint her on consent sometime in December or in January, and you should be all right.
All right, perfect. I guess this is a question for the council. Does anybody have thoughts here? Corey?
I have thoughts. I like the idea of just extending it through the end of the year, and then opening it up. And then if nobody else applies, then I would be like, okay, well, let's go ahead and move her forward. But I like the idea of it being as accessible for new folks to apply as possible.
I'm seeing Damien's head nod. I think we probably want to extend her probably through the first quarter, because if they went out in February, then that would cover the 4 additional meetings.
That makes sense.
Leonard or Steve? Okay, so I think people are good with the slate that we've identified, and then extend Jenna out until the end of the first quarter, knowing that we would go out and if I'm assuming she's interested, that we would go out and reapply. We would go out for that additional seat when we do the spring applications. Leonard.
Yeah, I just wanted to just comment briefly on what Councilor Pitt said. I think he's exactly correct that we don't emphasize hidden or buried history. And one of the reasons that we don't is it's hard to find. I mean, it requires hard work, and I think it's something that we have to we're going to have to commit ourselves to.
Perfect. Anything else before we adjourn? We are going to be back at 6:30 for executive session. Different link. Corey?
Do we want to talk about the terms? Do we want to leave that up to Emily, or?
Oh, thank you. I forgot about the terms.
I have the gavel. Do you want some help?
Okay. Does anybody have a preference on how to assign the terms for library board, or should we just ask Emily to assign them randomly? We've done that in the past.
I mean, I think that 2, 3, and 4 is a little odd, and not necessarily consistent with all other boards. I mean, I think the library board does good work, and so I'm just curious because what's going to happen if 2 people or all of them want the 4-year, and what's going to be the determining factor, if it comes to a showdown? I mean, how will that be decided? And so that's what I would want to know, because it shouldn't be something like picking straws or whoever wants it, because you will have where people might want the same term, and then how are you going to decide who gets it? So I think once again we need to figure out something in writing that's going to determine what happens in these situations.
Well, historically, what we've done is we've assigned them at our preference, that there's not that's a decision that we make, and then it's codified when we read the motions, because Steve will read the actual term date in the actual motion about when that term goes. Now it gets really complicated when there's not really an upside or a downside to assigning the terms, and there's lots of variations because there's no real benefit. And the easiest thing that we could do here is just make a decision, right? Like it's probably not going to be a plus side. So like if there's not going to be a benefit, we just have to find some clarity here. All right, I'm going back up to the list because I'm going to suggest we just go down. Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
Emily. If you'd like to hear some thoughts that I have, I'm share them. So I think that Susan has the most distinct experience of that's different than other people that are already on the advisory board. Myra, one of her coworkers is on the advisory board, so I think she'd be great. But I think Susan's experience brings a different realm of experience. And then the one thing to consider is Rebecca is in the UGB. She's not in the city limits. We do have one person who's already in the UGB and not in the city limits. So I don't know if for that reason you want to give her the shortest term. And the reason we have the different years, Councillor Pitts, is because people have resigned. All of the terms are typically 4 years, but we've had resignations. That's why they're staggered like that. So that's just a little bit of input into who's on the board and at this point.
Okay, so could we bring them, would people be okay if we went, Susan 4, Myra 3, Rebecca 2? So just descending order. I'm seeing a head nod from Emily. So let's, unless anybody objects, I think let's do it that way.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll see you guys at 6:30. Thank you.